authorizing the issuance of limited contracts for differential positions
calling the Municipal Service and Properties Committee to order. Today is Monday, February 3rd, 2025. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll? Here.
Present.
Present.
All right, thank you. All right, we got a pretty hefty agenda. There is really no good way to go here. Get All right, let's start with ordinance number 1353, 2024. Who's here for that? Okay. Actually, yeah, actually, yeah, okay, let me get, I kind of called you in the wrong order. Thanks, I appreciate it.
I appreciated the thought.
All right. All right, so I'm going to start with ordinance number 40, 2025. Okay, this is the Public Works and the Rust Belt Riders. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. All right. Ordinance number 40, 2025 by council members Starr, Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin. This is a departmental request. This is an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Works and Economic Development to enter into a ground lease with Rust Belt Riders Composting LLC for the use and occupancy of property located at 3270 East 79th Street to consolidate as composting facility operation and to install a retail operation at the location for a period of 10 years with two 10-year options to renew, exercised by the Department of Public Works and Economic Development. All right, who's here to speak on this piece?
So thank you, Chair. I do have some teammates here with me. I'm really gonna let them go through the presentation and explain everything to you. We're here to support the legislation, but they have all the information and knowledge about what actually has happened in this piece.
Okay. All right, can you speak into the mic? Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Natalie Longa, and I am here from Rust Belt Riders. I am the CFO and one of the 15 worker owners of the company. Rust Belt Riders is a social enterprise that has both existed and served.
Okay, could you?
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Who's this?
John Fosbender with Department of Economic Development.
Oh, you were Economic Development. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, yep. So Rust Belt Riders is a social enterprise that has existed and served Cuyahoga County since 2014. We currently employ 33 people, have 15 worker owners, offer a starting wage of more than $20 an hour, offer health insurance to all employees who work more than 30 hours per week, and every employee is eligible for worker ownership. To give you a bit of my background, like I said, I am the CFO of worker owner of the Rust Belt Riders, and I started at the organization in November of 22. My career has spanned public accounting, industry, financial analysis and planning, more private industry when I moved to part-time, and then I stopped working for a little bit to focus on family. When I was ready to return to the workforce, I wanted it to be intentional, and I wanted to find a company whose values aligned with my own, where I could spend my time doing meaningful, fulfilling, and impactful work. That's when I thought of Rust Belt Riders. I had already been a longtime drop-off customer for food scrap recycling, and I used their soil product, tilled soil, in my garden, so I was already a fan. The more I learned about the mission and values, the more I felt drawn to being part of their team. I actually applied for a hauling position, hauling food scraps, but that didn't pan out. I didn't get the job. A few months later, one of the co-founders reached out to me after reviewing my resume, and they were like, we're ready for you to come in an accounting and financial capacity. Is that something you're willing to do? And the rest is history. So that's a little bit about myself and Rust Belt Riders. Project Drawdown is the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reduce global warming. From devastating wildfires to polar temperatures, the climate crisis is being experienced in real time right now. This book was created by a team of scientists, researchers, policymakers, and presents a collection of climate solutions that are already available, practical, and scalable. This text demonstrates that the food sector generates the most carbon when compared to other manufacturing sectors. And within the food sector, reducing food waste has the most impact when compared to other solutions, such as maintaining a plant-based diet or utilizing regenerative agricultural practices. In the US alone, 40% of food is wasted, and food is the #1 single largest component in our nation's landfills. That's where we come. We provide that solution. So we know lots of food is being wasted. Who wastes it? Households contribute 43%, businesses waste 40%, and farms waste 16% of food. Today, Rust Belt Riders works with over 300 businesses in Cuyahoga County, ranging from as large as Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse to as small as your favorite local pastry, bakery, or deli, and everything in between. Anywhere there is food waste, we can provide a solution. We offer commercial services, residential services, and municipal services. We offer customized solutions for any type of organization. Our most recent partnership with the City of Cleveland resulted in a USDA grant to expand our drop-off program. The drop-off program allows residents to recycle their food waste at convenient drop-off locations. Our current program has 35 locations throughout the county, and the partnership between Rust Belt Riders and the city will allow 90% of residents to have access to a drop-off location within a 15-minute walk of their home, which is intentional and in line with the city's larger 15-minute city goal or initiative. We are a data-driven company and worked with the city's mapping and data team in order to select appropriate locations for the expansion sites, specifically the Center for Urban Analytics. The services of Rust Belt Riders results in the product line of tilth soil. Our original site, that little picture, was at East 55th Street, which we quickly outgrew, and by 2020, we were operating that pictured site there in Independence. Today, we now have to partner with facilities that are far-reaching throughout Northeast Ohio in order to accomplish all of our manufacturing and food waste recycling. That is why I am so excited to share and discuss the opportunity today. In our current configuration, we have our offices in Cleveland on St. Clair, where we pay rent. We park our truck fleet nearby, where we pay additional rent. We pick up material from all around the county and dump it at a transfer facility in Independence, where we pay to tip, as typical in the industry. Then the material is moved once again to North Canton, to the closest licensed composting facility, where they are manufactured into nutrient-rich compost down there at that very south Earthenwood. Then the finished compost is moved again up to that farthest west location in Lorraine, where we produce and manufacture our soil blend products. And a lot of material is sold out of that Lorraine location, but there's one last trip back to Cleveland to our retail location. We estimate that, wrong way. Yep, that we spend over $225,000 a year just moving the material. More than 12% of our operating costs. We have a very wasteful and very expensive infrastructure. We are so excited for the vacant parcel of land on East 79th Street, south of Kinsman and north of Bessemer, labeled there coming soon. It is our vision to consolidate our operations to this location and increase regional capacity to process food waste. We believe that this site is ideal for a number of reasons. It meets all setback requirements for a Class II facility. It's already zoned light industrial. It's less than 1 mile from the urban agricultural zone, which allows us to strengthen our partnership with Riddall, as we see them as an educational facility, and Rust Belt Riders is a true manufacturing facility. We are ready to activate this vacant, underutilized asset. We have engaged an engineering firm that specializes in construction and building of composting facilities, and we are confident that this facility will process 5,000 tons of food scraps annually. We are going to be utilizing the latest and greatest technology to demonstrate that composting facilities can integrate into the urban environment. We will utilize what's called an aerated static pile system, ASP system, that uses positive and negative airflow to speed up the composting and allows for really effective odor control. That's like what this site will look like. This is our team. We support regional farmers, gardeners, and food growers. We imagine a large landscaping facility where we will be operating machinery such as this. We will have hoop house structures such as those pictured, and different landscaping bays for for people to come pick up bulk material. So why us? Well, we've been doing this for 10 years now. In 2018, one of our soil mixes was named Best Organic Seed Starting Mix. We've been named the best small-scale composter in the U.S. by the U.S. Composting Council, and a number of other accolades.
Okay, sounds fascinating. Now, I got a couple questions. What's on this
Absolutely.
site right now?
Vacant.
The site is vacant, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, how long has it been vacant?
It's about 20 or 30 years.
Okay, whose ward is it? It's yours. Councilman Starr, you want to speak to this, please?
Yes, the only thing I would say, I do support ordinance 40-2025. I've had the opportunity to connect with Dan Brown for about the last 6 or 7 months, specifically on this project, but also me and him connected a couple years ago as he was talking about some of the work they did. So right off of East 79th, in between Bessemer and Kinsman, is about 6.5, maybe 7 acres of undeveloped land that's been there for about 30 years. But one of the most important things that they're going to be able to bring to the neighborhood is their whole entire facility. Instead of having it travel all throughout the city, they can consolidate and bring their headquarters there, also create job opportunity, and also expand their collaboration and partnership that they have with Riddall right up the street to be able to save food and turn it into good soil. So I do support this project.
Okay, all right, thank you, Councilman Starr. Okay, so if I have some food waste, which I had this weekend, and it was paying me to have that waste, so what do I do? What do Clevelanders do when they have food waste?
Great, yes.
How do they integrate and connect with your company?
Great.
And what will it cost? Okay.
So, yes. Right now, the partnership with the City of Cleveland allows up to 250 SNAP-eligible families to enroll in our program at no cost to them. For families who are not SNAP-eligible, it is $12 a month to participate in the drop-off program, and that is where we have the locking bins. Let me go back. They look like this. When someone signs up to be a member, they are given the code to unlock, and they can drop off their food waste as often and as much as they need to. And they, like I said, we partnered with the data team at the city to identify the best locations so that, like I said, everyone will be able to access these bins within a 15-minute walk of their home.
Okay.
To the
wait.
chair, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just really, that's a program that's in the works. It's not in place today. So if you could explain the actual locations in the city that exist today, that would help the councilman right now, because the program that she's referring to is still under works. We're still working it.
Yep, so every one of those green dots is a current existing drop-off location.
Okay. Okay. So the cost was $12 a month unless you are SNAP eligible, and you are only going to take a limited number of SNAP eligible families.
$250.
Okay, $250. Okay. All right. Is there any questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Harris.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I won't be long. Congratulations to you all in finding this space. You all were once located in Ward 10, in my ward, north of St. Clair. I hated to see you all leave, but you outgrew the space quickly. And we unfortunately didn't have anything in our neighborhood to keep you all there. You all do an amazing you all have an amazing operation. You do great work in the neighborhood, and I was sad to see you go. But you're landing in a very comparable neighborhood as relates to coordination, engagement, activity, and so forth. With Ridall being just steps away from you, I'm excited to see what that partnership looks like with the great work Ridall does, with the work that you do on a daily basis. I really see something phenomenal coming out of you all being located near each other. Congratulations to Councilman Starr, now having your entire operation being headquartered over in that neighborhood. So I wish you much success. Again, hate to see that you're in another neighborhood, but that's okay. I represent the whole city, and wish you much success. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Harrison. Councilman Kelly.
I just want to say thank you. You're right when you say impactful, but it's also inspirational. I'd just like to, maybe I can reach out to you later. I'd like to see if I could get some of the CMSC kids out there and maybe, to be a part of it, okay? I think this would be very helpful for them. We got a couple of different schools that have an environmental twist to it,
That'd be
so I think this
amazing.
fit right
I'll
in.
give you my card before I leave.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. I just have one request to please submit us the locations of the drop-offs, okay? The
Got it.
addresses and stuff to the council.
Yep.
And we can circulate them through the body, okay?
it.
All right, is there any, what?
Just quickly, to the chair, there should be coming soon from the Office of Sustainability. They're actually going to give you some information and explain that program in depth, how it's going to work, where things are going to
The
be.
expanded
Absolutely.
program. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but I can also provide the list of existing locations.
Okay, and one other thing, is there any kind of educational materials that we can circulate through the city to the importance of composting and what it means? Some kind of informational,
Sure, yes.
because we don't really know the full scale of, how important this is.
Yes,
Okay,
we
Director,
would love to.
Director, you got another comment?
No, we've actually, Arenzo Brumfield has been working closely with this group from our department as well as the Office of Sustainability. So we could definitely work
Yeah.
with this group to be able to get some information about composting, which is one of the things that we're very excited about ourselves. So yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions on ordinance number 40, 2025? Seeing no further questions, ordinance 40, 45, 2025 is hereby. Please sign up. It's passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You want to stay here?
Thank you.
Insurance piece.
Sure one.
Insurance. Thank you, insurance.
okay.
And then, I got another one with MOCAP, or sorry, with the ports, that
All right.
1173.
Next up is ordinance number 22, 2025. By council members Bishop and Griffin. This is a departmental request. This is an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and/or Finance as appropriate to employ one or more professional consultants to assess, recommend, and/or procure property insurance for Huntington Bank Field located at 100 Alfred Lerner Way, and other related services for a period of 1 year. Okay. All right, Director, this is a yearly insurance piece.
Yes, Chair, this is correct. This is the annual insurance that we send out an RFP to solicit vendors to be able to provide insurance for the Cleveland Stadium. Also, in addition to that, we also ask to be able to have the assistance of another group help us find this insurance.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we also have baked into this piece.
Okay. All right. So we haven't found the insurance. That's what you.
So we have insurance currently,
Right.
and so we're just now asking, being able to go out, solicit through an RFP. So we're just at the infant stages right now. That's what this legislation is asking us to be able to do, to be able to go out.
Okay. So in the event that we don't have a tenant at this stadium, at Huntington Bill Field, how would we proceed, Director?
So I'm going to hand that over to the Commissioner of Risk Management. We actually were talking about that before we came up, so I'm going to let him give some insight
Okay.
to that.
All right. Thank you.
To the council chair. That's accurate. So we would have to make a determination at what point the facility would be utilized and make arrangements to make sure, because if at some point it would be vacant, then that'll be a difficult endeavor. Not impossible, but a difficult endeavor then to obtain insurance. Like I said, it wouldn't be impossible. It just brings a different dynamic, because then the question will be, is it being maintained? Is it still being utilized? Because it's like having a vacant house and then trying to insure, and is it going to go into disrepair? So that's what they would want to know. So it does add another layer to this.
Okay. Typically, stadiums across the country, can you give us kind of a snapshot what it typically costs to insure stadiums across the country, and is ours comparable to those?
To the chair. Yes. So at this juncture, it depends, because so many of the stadiums now, they're costing into the billions of dollars. This stadium was built in 1999, or came to completion in 1999, and the approximate cost was slightly over $300 million at the time. And so today, with the value of stadiums and the different components each of these stadiums have, we're looking at an extremely high amount of money. Buffalo, for example, their stadium complex that's under construction is $1.8 billion. And as we know, SoFi Stadium in LA, it's in excess of $2 billion. AT&T World down in Dallas-Fort Worth, over $2 billion. So our stadium is insured for what it should be at today's rate, based on the type of stadium that we have.
Okay. Wow. So the dollar amount, you're saying that you're estimating it's going to be $700,000 this year for 2025, correct?
That's correct.
And that's an increase of how much over the prior years?
About somewhere close to about $70,000.
$70,000?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so this is pretty straightforward. We just need to insure our stadium. All right, is there any questions from the committee? Councilman Starr.
Thank you, Chair. But one question I would definitely ask is, so we annually have to go through a consultant to consolidate or look at our stadium before it can be insured. So is that what this basically is doing?
Through the chair to the council, and no, we don't need them to be able to go out. What we're asking, we need to get insurance every year, but what we're asking for this year is to be able to have a group help us finding insurance, and especially in the case where if we do go vacant, having a group to be able to help us work through how do we do this next step, how do we insure a vacant property. So that's kind of two phases to this. So we in the past, we've always just kind of gone out and got the insurance ourselves. But as it gets more complex and as things get a little bit more difficult to do. We're asking to be able to have some help to be able to find the right type of insurance in the right situations.
And through the chair to Assistant Director Lillard, the years that we didn't do it this way, we did it ourselves. What was the cost for us to do this assessment and this type of work ourselves through the chair?
So I will say pre-COVID, the prices were somewhere $100,000 a year. But that just went to show that the group that we were using, they weren't doing a whole lot of work, and we didn't know any better. And so when it came after COVID, it was a sticker shock when we saw that the prices went up by 300, 400% because we were not being insured properly. So now we are actually being insured for our replacement costs. And I'm not quite sure how they were insuring us before that time, but now we're able to get a better picture. And the group that we've been working with now is giving us a lot more insight. They do a lot of insurance for governments, and they do a lot of insurance for stadiums. They have a much better understanding of how this insurance field works. It's very complex. And so that's the reason why we wanted to be able to have a group working with us in tandem as we get into deeper waters with this.
Okay, so therefore, with this new approach, we will now be able to have a more of an understanding that if we do not have a tenant, what is available for us to possibly do with the vacant space? Through the chair.
Through the chair to the counselor. Through the chair to the counselor, that's correct. So this broker, which would also act as sort of a risk mitigator for us, they would be able to tell us they do a lot of huge venues around the country. So it's a very well versed and respected broker. It's probably the 6th or 7th largest broker in the nation. And they have a ton of different venues across the country, like the Hollywood Bowl is one of them, and stadiums on a lot of stadiums on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So they would help us because we're not going to be the first ones that experience this, and they'll help us make it through this process.
And then through that is Alien Insurances Services. I know you said they've done this type of work. Do you know any other stadiums similar to the situation we're dealing with that they've worked on, which led to us to possibly outsource them to come to the city to help us? Do we know any other locations? I think I heard Dallas, but is that one of the stadiums as well?
Let's see, through the chair to the, now as far as the specific situation we have, I don't know if we have anything like that, but they've covered Soldier Field, San Jose Stadium, Fresno Stadium, the Rose, Pasadena, California. I've got a list here. I can actually give you this list if you're interested.
Yep, definitely. We can send that over to the council so we can at least look
I
at
can do
that.
But yeah, they have an extensive list of stadiums that they've covered.
Okay, and that's good. I know they're based out in California, and now they're here. So just want to make sure I get an understanding that we're being proactive with our approach and not just putting more money into something that possibly not going to be there in a couple of years if things go as they've been planned in the media so far.
Sure.
So just wanted to make sure I just asked that, Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Starr. Is there any other questions on ordinance number 22, 2025? All right, so I'm not exactly sure if Starr asked this. So, Director, the current insurer, we don't want to just look at ask them for an extension for another year, or you want to go with a broker?
So to the chair, I think I'll let, but for the most part, because most insurance companies don't want to go past a year.
Okay.
We are typically kind of forced to go back out annually.
Okay.
So that's.
To the chair, in response to that question, the broker that we're using goes out and their market. There's about 28 actual insurance carriers of the thousands that are available in the world that in the United States specifically insure that their specialty is stadiums. And so that limited number, after COVID, before COVID, we used to be able to get like 3-year options with 1 year with 2-year, 1-year renewals. After COVID, it became a very volatile or a very fluid type of thing that they didn't want to insure. Sometimes now they may, as the market starts settling down, now they're starting to say, okay, we can look at maybe 1 year with 1 additional year, but most of them are very reluctant to go back to the 3-year at this point. not saying that one day they'll get back to what it was pre-COVID, but we're still in the early stages past COVID. We're a couple years past COVID, and I think the market will settle down eventually. But at this point, yeah, it's difficult. But they've been able to find us some really good options. And as back to Councilor Starr's question, one of the issues that you looked at, one of the stadiums, is Soldier Field, which is Chicago, which is exactly going through what we're going through, with them talking about moving to Arlington Park. So they also ensure that. So
Okay, all right. All right. All right, seeing no further questions, ordinance number 2225 is approved. Please sign it.
Thank you.
You got any other?
That's at 1173.
1173? Okay, we'll do that next.
The leases.
Okay, next is ordinance number 1173, 2024. Ordinance number 1173, 2024 by council members McCormick, Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin. It's a departmental request. Emergency ordinance authorizing Director of Port Control, Public Works, and/or capital projects as appropriate to enter into one or more submerged land leases with the state of Ohio and future consent to sublease with various tenants for the submerged land from West 3rd Street to approximately East 49th Street for a term up to 99 years with two 50-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control, and to replace, modify, amend, extend, and otherwise adjust existing identified submerged land leases and subleases. Okay? So that's a lot of things to take in. Can you kind of break that down, explain that to us, what's going on? Director?
Mr. Chairman, good morning, members of the committee. Dennis Kramer, Assistant Director, Airport Development. Yes, absolutely, we'll walk you all through this here. So submerged land leases are something that we have on our lakefront. The state of Ohio, we, as an entity or even private, you cannot own lands of the lake. You can only lease it through a submerged land lease from the state of Ohio. We have several of these submerged land leases currently in place, and what we're looking to do here is to modify one of our existing submerged land leases for additional area on the lakefront. This is kind of cleaning up some old stuff to make sure that we have full leasing of all the areas that we need for future lakefront development. I have with me today John Hoos, Assistant Commissioner of Airport Strategy, and he can walk you through a little bit more on the details of this piece.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a little background. In your RL package, there should be a map, and on top of it, it's labeled 1870. It just sort of gives you a visual reference of what the lakefront looked like in 1870. Basically, at that time, the lake started approximately where the railroad tracks are now. It was all open water. And then over the years, the city filled in that land with artificial fill to kind of create the terra firma you see out there now. And in order to have full bundle of rights to do development projects, obtain grants, get certain permits, it's necessary to have what's called a submerged land lease. So per this sort of a complicated constitutional doctrine called the public trust doctrine, the state of Ohio holds the bottom of the lake in trust for the people of Ohio. And so what a submerged land lease does is it allows us to lease that bottom, and then combined with the fill we have currently, we have the full kind of bundle of rights to do development, infrastructure, get grants. Over the years, we have entered into submerged land leases, but the vast majority of the lakefront, which is the second, I think it's labeled Exhibit A, is not under a submerged land lease. And what this would do is get that land under a submerged land lease. So the terms of the submerged land lease are 99 years. They're all pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code. or administrative code, sorry. So they're dictated. The rental costs are really de minimis. For public use, it's $1. And then for when you're going to develop the property, it's anywhere, depending on the size of the parcel, a penny to 4 cents a square foot, which those costs are passed on to whoever we're leasing the property to. The other thing that's important to note is all this allows us to do is enter in the submerged land lease with the state of Ohio. Any future development opportunities or agreements are still subject to city council authority. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Okay. So we just looking to get certain pieces of land, not this whole thing shown on the map, correct?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, so like I said, there are parts of Burke, there are parts of North Coast Harbor, and other areas of the lakefront that are already under a submerged land lease. What this piece is doing is looking to add some additional areas to those existing submerged land leases. So a lot of the land we're talking about today is some of the area around the stadium, and then a lot of what today is consistent of the municipal lots down along the shoreway there. It's approximately 144 acres, and what we'll be doing is adding these pieces of land to an existing submerged land lease that we already have.
Okay. Now, the existing land lease that you already have, when does that expire? Or is it runs, because when we sign this agreement, it's 99 years. So is it kind of equal to the other land lease where they will both expire at the same time, or how does that work?
To the chair, that's exactly right. It runs
Okay.
coterminous with the existing lease.
Okay. All right. All right. Is there any questions on ordinance number 1173?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know, excuse me, through the chair, what's your name again, sir?
John House.
John, okay. You mentioned that any future consent to sublease with various tenants will still be subject to Cleveland City Council approval, correct?
To the chair of the councilman, that's correct.
But the ordinance reads that we're giving you the authorization for any future consent to lease with various tenants for submerged land lease from West 3rd to East 49th Street. So that's opposite of what you just said.
To the chair of the councilman, so how it works is we get all the property under submerged land lease, and then
Did you give all
we
property?
get it under
Get it. Okay,
under
gotcha.
the city with
Okay.
the state of Ohio, and then with the consent to subleases, that's after you approve when I say you, I'm sorry, city council approves a development agreement. At the end of that, in order to sign that agreement that you've authorized, city council, we have to get a consent to sublease. It's very specific. It's exactly how it's titled, a consent to sublease from the state of Ohio, basically saying we're allowed to sublease the submerged land. But that does not occur until after you've authorized the actual development agreement with, or whatever project.
Sure. And for our attorneys or staff, is that clear in the ordinance, maybe in the whereas, that says just that you will have to still receive consent from this body for future leases?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
You know what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
I just don't want to mix the terms up and speak, out of line.
to chair of the councilman, I'm not an attorney, but it's very specific. The consent to sublease is an actual agreement spelled out in the Ohio Administrative Code. So it only authorizes us to do the submerged land lease and the consent to sublease, which you do not enter into consent to sublease unless there's an actual agreement in place that has been approved by city council.
Gotcha.
Through the chair, can I add something? Apologies. The consent to sublease is with the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
It is not with a developer or some other entity that's actually going to do the development. The consent to sublease is with the state of Ohio itself.
Okay. And, okay. Well, also, there's 99 years and there's two 50-year options to renew. do we have in the ordinance that would require any further legislative approval to exercise those renew options, Mr. Chair? Or is it just we give you the blanket authority now, and you, in your prerogative as the Director of Port Control of Public Works and or Capital Projects, can enter into that agreement without coming back to this body, even with just an update to let us know what's happening, what was occurred, what is being discussed for the future? I think it's good that that is a part of this agreement, so that way, even if many of us aren't here, that the next group come along, they have some idea about what has been agreed to, what has taken place. I know we think of submerged land leases as being kind of minute. However, those are very important leases, right? Because a lot of things you cannot do if someone else has a submerged land lease along some of these areas. So, we want to just, be cautious and really understand, what has been asked of us today. Because while it may seem minor, it really isn't. It is major as it relates to the future development of the area, to what takes place there, right? What doesn't take place there, who you have to work with, who you don't have to work with. It's not as minor as it appears to be. It is very serious, those submerged land leases. Just in my interaction as DPS chair and, over the years, and just outside of being the chair, my role from the county and now the city, I've been a part of many conversations that dealt with lakefront, waterfront, riverfront, all of these other things that are happening across the city and the county, and know that these are, again, on the surface can seem minor, but they can be major once you get down the road. So that was just the emphasis of my comments of why I'm asking those questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do we have you want to offer an amendment, Councilman?
Well, I we can finish the questions, and I can hear more that the three are proposing here, just so I'm clear on what is being asked of us. And this will come to DPS as well, correct?
Yes, it does. So
we can, we probably won't figure that out now, right? Or have all the answers. Mm-hmm. We can address it as we move along before DPS.
Okay. All right.
But I'm not opposed to that. I just,
okay. All
just
right.
understand it.
All right. Is there any other questions on ordinance number 1173, 2024? All right. No other questions. Ordinance number 1173, 2024 is approved. It will move on to DPS. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have ordinance number 43, 2025. All right, do you have a presentation? Yes. Okay. All right, ordinance number 43, 2025 by council members Bishop, Polensek, and Griffin. This is a departmental request. Emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance on behalf of Office of Prevention, Intervention, and Opportunity for Youth and Young Adults to employ one or more professional consultants to design and implement projects to support the transformation of city recreation centers into trauma-informed neighborhood resource and recreation centers, to develop and provide programs and activities for youth and their families to serve as tools to prevent violence, develop skills and knowledge to overcome challenges associated with trauma and toxic stress, and to create opportunities for youth and their families to live quality lives for a period up to 18 months with one option to renew for a period up to 18 months, exercisable by the Director of Finance. Okay. All right, Chief.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, council members. Happy Black History Month. and thank you for this opportunity to present this to you. We are here because our programs through the PIO office that happen, they're out-of-school time-based programs and wraparound support services. They occur in our recreation centers and some other community spaces. The request that we have before you today allows us not to interrupt any of those programs and services. As you all may know, the winter season for these programs have started. They go through March. And then one of our significant programs for summer employment with YOU, the application process has started for young people with applications opening on February 1st. And so we have a couple of slides for you, and then we want to make sure that we leave time to answer your questions. But wanted to also acknowledge that YOU is here, as well as Murtis Taylor, who helps to extend the wraparound mental health services that we have in the community. And so, again, this is to allow us to engage in contractual services using our temporary budget funds to ensure that we do not have any gaps in programs and activities available for our children. Overall, this allows us to provide high-quality out-of-school time programming, as I've mentioned. And this just gives you a little bit of a summary of what our impact has been to date as it relates to these programs for out-of-school time, both in education, both in employment, as well as the 6 key areas that we focus in on for out-of-school time programs. And I believe you have these same slides on your computers there in front of you, so I don't want to necessarily read everything to you, but just a few highlights. Some of the summer employment programs that have been very successful. As you all know, each summer we have a significant number of young people who apply for summer jobs. In partnership with the city and the county, we were able to ensure summer employment for 1,200 kids last summer, including young people who are now lifeguards, have been lifeguards for the city of Cleveland through our academy program. We were also able to extend summer employment last year for young adults who were transitioning out of high school and did not quite have a plan yet. We also did that in partnership with Cuyahoga County. But totally, we were able to serve 400 young people through jobs, through our wide variety of job programs. And if you look at this particular slide, it shows you what that distribution was across all of the wards in our city. And so every ward in our city had young people employed through the summer jobs program and employment opportunities made available. I also just want to highlight the number of programs that we have across all of our recreation centers and through some of our community partner organizations like Caremu House. We were able to offer 36 unique programs available to young people across all of these different focus areas. And you will see that we've started to make a bump back post-COVID. When we first started as an administration, our numbers were far lower because a lot of young people were just finding their ways back to programs after school, including those available in our recreation center. If you look this past summer from the summer before, we were able to increase participation by about 500 people. And so we're seeing that these programs are becoming more and more important to young people, and they're taking advantage of them again. A few highlighted programs. One program that our young people are very excited about is esports. This particular program allows young people through gaming to build a lot of youth development and leadership skills, and also have some healthy competition around things that they love. And so that's a program that's continuing to grow. And then you'll see on this last slide the actual contracts that we are planning for that will, again, allow us to continue our programming without interruption for the the winter session that we're in now, going into spring and summer. And I will pause for any questions.
Okay, so the you say in the YOU program, it was how many youth last year? Did you say?
Last year, 1,211 young people applied. Actually had jobs from the city of Cleveland numbers only.
And you facilitated all that? office?
Our office works with YOU, yes, to
Okay.
facilitate that. We administer the city's contract with YOU, where we have dollars to fund that.
So if I'm a young person and I wanted to get a YOU job, I can walk into a recreation center and kind of connect with the system at that point?
And so YOU has a very specific process. Our recreation centers are a promotional site for the jobs. And so if you walk into a recreation center, you'll see a set of flyers, you'll see posters, and then our social support specialists who are there, they can also assist a young person with starting their application process. But YOU does host a number of application workshop and session dates throughout the city where they help young people go through the application process.
Okay, so can you speak about the adult education through our rec centers? And can you speak about that?
Sure. We have a number of programs where we are not just focused on youth who are under the age of 18, but we know a number of people who are over 18 also need wraparound and supportive services. And so we offer several of those programs. And I'm going to have Sherry speak more specifically about those.
I think our most successful programs are the billing and coding sessions that we have at Frederick Douglass, and then we have phlebotomy classes at Stella Walsh as well. And those classes are always full, and those young adults actually are very well positioned to obtain positions, jobs out in the workforce.
So is this a certification program, or is it just a introduction to this field?
It can lead, they can pursue the certification. We don't really have a lot who go that extra mile to get the certification, but they are prepared to do that when they finish this class.
Okay. Can you speak on your programs that actually impacts violence directly? Can you speak on that?
Sure. We would actually argue that all of these programs are directly impacting violence. We speak a lot in community about prevention. And so the prevention model speaks to making sure that there are high quality opportunities available that keep people engaged and support them so that they never find themselves in a situation where they might be harmed by violence or that they might get engaged in violence because they don't have resources. And so I would say that these programs are preventative measures, and we always have to look at it almost like a funnel. And so at the top of the funnel are your preventative practices and programs that support people at the population level. As you go down that funnel where people may have had some levels of engagement, then there are more targeted efforts that happen through organizations like Peacemakers or with departments like our Community Relations Board that really do deeper intervention with people that have already been engaged in forms of violence.
All right. I'm going to open this up to questions for the committee. Is there any questions on ordinance number 43? Councilwoman, you have any questions on ordinance number 43, 2025? No, Chairman. Thank you. All right, seeing no further questions on ordinance number 43, 2025 is approved. Please sign it.
Thank you. And if I might, Council Chairman and council members, I do want to acknowledge 2 team members that have joined us that will be supporting this work and working very closely with all of you to help increase engagement. We talk a lot with you all about needing more marketing and engagement so people know these programs are available, and then being more strategic and fully focused on how these programs are a part of the larger out-of-school time offerings for young people. So I just want to acknowledge 2 new team members, Michael Cook and Joseph Postwaite, if they could both just stand and say hello. Good morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Director, what else?
I think I got all the rest of them.
All the rest of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll see me here for a little bit. Yeah.
All right, okay.
I jumped.
All right. All right, next up, we have ordinance number 44, 2025. by Council Members Bishop and Harrison. This is a departmental request, an emergency ordinance upon vacation of Old West Boulevard to revoke the existing encroachment permit of the Tamir Rice Foundation for the Tamir Rice Memorial, authorizing the mayor and the Commissioner of Purchases and Supplies to execute a deed of easement over the revoked encroachment permit property, granting to the Tamir Rice Foundation certain easement rights to improve and maintain the Tamir Rice Memorial, granting easements to go to utility providers for existing facility through or under the right-of-way of vacated Old West Boulevard, and declaring the easement rights granted are not needed for the city's public use. Okay, Director, what's the purpose of this piece?
So, Mr. Chairman, this is a piece that is designed to give perpetual rights to the Tamir Rice Memorial, which is being managed by the Tamir Rice Foundation. A few weeks ago, we introduced a resolution with an intent to vacate Old West Boulevard between Detroit Avenue and West 98th Street, and that's just the first of 3 steps of the vacation process. But this ordinance is a companion piece to that one. Upon vacation of the Old West Boulevard, what our intention is to revoke an encroachment permit which was issued to the Tamir Rice Foundation, because the Tamir Rice Memorial, most of it is on top of that old West Boulevard right-of-way. The only way for us to give rights to something within right-of-way is through the encroachment permit process, but that could be revoked at the will of council. And the Tamir Rice Foundation was seeking more perpetual rights to the memorial at that location. And the way to do that would be to vacate that portion of Old West Boulevard, which had been relocated to the existing location years, I think in the 40s maybe. And then we can, when it's vacated, we can revoke the encroachment permit and put in place a permanent easement, same location, but permanent rights for the memorial to remain in that location in perpetuity. And that's how we would have issued it if it was just part of the park. But because it was on top of the right-of-way, we had to go with an encroachment permit back in 2020 when the memorial was being built.
Okay. All right. All right. Is there any questions on ordinance number 44, 2025? Seeing no questions on ordinance 44 is hereby approved. Please sign. All right. Okay. Next up is ordinance number 1353, 2024, by Council Members McCormick, Bishop, and Griffin. It's a departmental request giving an emergency ordinance giving consent of the City of Cleveland to the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio to stabilize the foundation of Tower B of the Detroit Superior Bridge, also known as Veterans Memorial Bridge, and authorizing the agreement. All right, Director.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is authorization for an ODOT-led and ODOT paid-for construction project, which is to stabilize Tower B of the Detroit Superior Bridge. Rick Switowski will give the details, but I wanted to highlight that this is an aesthetic feature of the bridge, and it's not supporting the remaining bridge structure. It is on the Irishtown Bend hillside, so the goal is to do this project in relation to stabilizing the hillside. But I'm going to pass it over to Rick Switowski to give details about ODOT's project.
Thank you. To the chair. The project will consist of stabilizing this column. As the director mentioned, it's just for aesthetic purposes only. It's not supporting the bridge. But basically what they'll do is drill down 2 shafts alongside of this tower. It's called underpinning, and then they'll extend the foundation of this tower and tie it into those 2 drilled shafts. They're not going to try to put it back in place. They're just stabilizing since it is an aesthetic feature.
Okay.
And it's about a $550,000 project. It'll start sometime in September, October, and take till about March to finish up.
Now, who pays for this project?
The state of Ohio.
State of Ohio?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the city has no dollars in it?
No, sir.
All right. Is there any questions on ordinance 1353? All right, seeing no further questions on ordinance 1353 is approved, please sign it. All right, Director, finally, I'm going to go over ordinance number 1141, 2023. This is 2023. By council members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request. Emergency ordinance to amend various sections of the codified ordinance of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by various sections to repeal section 505.04, 505.05, 505.07 to 505.10, as amended by various ordinances, to supplement the codified ordinances by enacting new sections 502.01 to 502.06, 503.014, 505.16, and 514.091 relating to sidewalks and the right-of-way generally. Okay? All right. Can you make some sense out of all of that, Director?
Thank you, Chairman. So we...
Hold on just a minute.
Yes.
This is ordinance number 1141, 2023, as amended. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. In Section 1, at amended Section 503.01, line 1, after division, strike H and insert H3 above. In line 4, strike division H or I and insert division I. Okay. All right, I had to read the amendment. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think there might be another amendment with the permit rates, or no?
Yes, I do have a different amendment in front of me. Let me share that with
My understanding was there was two amendments, the one that you read and then this one, which was at the request when we presented it last in this committee. There was questions about setting the permit fees in the ordinance.
Okay.
And so this second amendment, at the request of council, sets the permit fees. Now, I don't know how you can, if you have to read that whole thing in, but it's pretty extensive at the request of council.
Okay, before we get to that, I have a guest here, Ms. Rocco. She wants to speak to the amendment of 1141, 2024. Can you? Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Through the councilman
Please
to the
speak into the
committee.
mic. Please speak
Sorry.
into the mic.
Thank you. Through the councilman to the committee, I'm here on behalf of Downtown Cleveland, Inc. My name is Sam Rocco. We are in support of this amendment that would waive fees for events for CDCs. We host over 350 events per year. They're all free, open, and marketed to the public. We're hoping to increase that amount of events this year. We host weekly food truck series. In addition to that, we host large-scale events such as Winterland and Juneteenth Freedom Festival. Essentially, we're in support of this amendment because we feel it'll increase the vibrancy and safety of our neighborhood.
Okay, so you're in support of what amendment?
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but
So, Chairman, so the piece that she's speaking to is one of the changes in the overall ordinance.
Okay.
And the purpose of this ordinance, just to zoom out for a second, is to take our existing codified ordinances as it relates to permits and right-of-way and make them align with what our current practices are, current permit fee rates that are reflective of what other cities are doing, as well as our guest spoke about, a benefit that CDCs would receive, which is Also for government-sponsored events such as councilmatic or city-sponsored events where right-of-way permit fees would be waived for CDC or city-sponsored events. But that's just one piece of the overall ordinance. And we do have a PowerPoint to go through all of the pieces of it.
Okay, all right. All right, I'm gonna go to Councilman Starr. Thank you, Ms. Rocco.
Thank you.
Chair, in lieu of some of the amendments that we have here before, I wanted to make sure I make the amendments and put it on record. Is this okay right now, Chair?
Yes, yes.
All right, in section 1, add amended section 411.011 in the section title line after street, insert and sidewalk in division D, lines 1 and 2, strike fee established from time to time by the Board of Control and insert applicable fee set forth below. In line 3, after thereto, strike and insert, the application shall be accompanied with, and at the end of the division, after insured. Insert and use in the Division A city co-sponsored event means an event supported and produced by one of the branches of departments or offices of the city of Cleveland that furthers the function or goals of the branch, the department or office, and the CDC. Qualifying event means an event held or sponsored by a community development corporation organized under Chapter 1702 of the Revised Code that is open to the public at no charge, is anticipated to attract and or keep members of the public at the event location, and includes food truck staging, or is a festival that obstruct the streets. And I believe that it, all of this? The director of the capital project shall charge the following fees for obstruction permitted is issued under the section. 1, construction work partially taking a portion of the street that may include the sidewalk. A, in Central Business District, $50 per week up for 20 LF up to 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, $190 per month for 20 LF. B, in other commercial districts, $25 per week for 20 LF up to 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, $85 per month for 20 LF. C, in residential areas, $20 per month. Number 2, construction, work entirely taking the streets and may include the sidewalk. A, in Central Business District, $100 per week up to 20 LF up to 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, $38 per month for 20 LF. B, in other commercial districts, $50 per week for 20 LF up to 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, $190 per month for LF. In residential areas, $20 per month. Number 3, construction work partially taking the sidewalks only. A, in Central Business District, $20 per week for 20 LF up to 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, $85 per month for 20 LF. B, in other commercial districts, $12.50 per week for 20 LF up to 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, $44.50 per month for LF. In residential areas, $20 per month. And number 4, construction work taking the entire sidewalk only. A, in Central Business District, $50 per week for 20 LF up to 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, $190 per month for 20 LF. B, in other commercial district, $25 per week for 20 LF up to 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, $85 per month for 20 LF. In residential area, $20 per month. And number 5, dumpsters or portal on-site storage. A, in a Central Business District, $20 per month plus an additional $50 for the inspection. B, in the commercial district, $20 per month plus an additional $50 for an inspection. And C, in residential areas, $20 per month. Number 6, city-sponsored events, no charge. Number 7, non-city sponsored special events, $100 per event. 8, CDC qualifying events, no charge. 9, a block party, $25 per event. 10, filming, $20 per filming location. 11, bus parking, $50 per day for each bus. 12, expedited reviews, $50 additional fees for any requested and performed expedited reviews. 2, in section 1 at amend section 43.021, strike the new division B in its entirety and insert the following. B, the director of capital project shall charge the following fees for permits issued under section 439.02. Active permit, single movement. Processing fees, 72 hours or 5 days is $29. Overweight surcharge over 80,000 pounds, $15. Overweight superload surcharge over 120,000 pounds, $30. Overweight sub surcharge over 14 feet, $15. Overheight surcharge over 14.6, $29. Overlength surcharge over 80 feet, $15. Return trip surcharge with authorization, $15. Continuing permit fees, processing fee, 365 days, max under 121,001 pound. Each, the fee will be $110 each month or yearly of $1,200 yearly for the permit. Overweight surcharge between 80,000 and 1 to 120,000 pounds, which will be $60. Overweight surcharge over 14 feet will be $60. Overheight surcharge over 14.6 inches will be $116. Overlength surcharge over 80 feet, $60. Expedited review fee, additional fee for each requested performed expedited review is $50. 3, in section 1, at amend section 503.01A, line 3, strike or alley and insert alley sidewalk at division of 503.01A1, line 5, after necessary, insert if the permit is reconfiguring the public right-of-way and engineering drawing stamped by a professional engineer of the state of Ohio, accompanied by the permit application, in 503.01A. In the last line, strike a fee surcharge schedule fixed from time to time by the Board of Control and insert the following. Man.
Doing a good job.
A street evacuation, 313 for the first 200 square feet and $43 for each additional 200 square feet or the portion thereof, 195 inspection fee for one parcel or a small project, $260 per month inspection fee at a large project. B, sidewalk excavation. Tongue twisted. Excavation.
Excavation, okay.
$45 for 1 to 200 square feet or for a single residential parcel, $94 to 201 to 1,000 square feet, $135 for 1,001 to 5,000 square feet, $225 from 5,001 square feet or over, $195 for inspection fees for the one parcel or a small project, $260 per month for an inspection fee for a large project. Expedited reviews, $50 additional fee for any requested and performed expedited reviews. D, engineering review fee for the earth retention system, ERS review or elevated pedestrian bridge review, $4,000 fee for complete review site. For the purposes of this section, a small project means that the adjacent property for which a permit is being sought is a single residential house, townhomes, or apartments with the less than 4 units, other commercial single buildings under half acres of land. A large project means that the adjacent property for which a permit being sought is greater in size than a small project. And then in section 503-01A2, line 11, strike in accordance with the fee schedule fixed from time to time by the Board of Control and insert of $100. In section 503.01B, line 4, strike fixed by the Board of Control. In section 503.01C, line 3, strike an amount fixed from time to time by the Board of Control and insert $25. And in section 503.01 line 1 at the division, strike H and insert H3 above, and in line 4, strike division H or I and insert division I. 4, in section 1, and amend section 505.03E, line 1, delete may and insert shall. And number 5, in section 1, at amend section 505.14A, line 2, at the sidewalk, insert curbs or aprons, and at the end, at the receding lawns, insert the following: the city may pay more than the allotted 50% if the cost of the construction unit prices exceeds the estimate unit pricing given to the residents. The estimated value of the work submitted to the resident shall be considered the final cost to the resident regardless of the final construction cost, and at 505.14D, line 4, at the written estimate, insert of the work.
Wow. Yeah. So thank you, Councilman Starr. I really appreciate that. Now, this amendment right here, when we had this meeting, I thought we had a summary. This is like a whole nother piece of legislation here.
Well, I'm going to hand it over to Assistant Director Chambers. She's really been working on this with Rob Knopf, who's to her left. He's our section chief of permits and sidewalks. But we do have a summary. We do have a PowerPoint to go through. But a lot of what Councilman Starr read in as the amendment is because City Council did not want us to go to Board of Control to set the fees. So we're setting the fees through the ordinance, and then any changes that happen to the fees going forward would come back to Council for the adjustments. Now, there are some other random things in there, but the majority of that was setting the fees, which unfortunately are all very specific that to do what Council requested, we had to do a pretty long amendment for.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question about the bus. $50 per day for each bus, and number 11, I do believe it is. Now explain $50 per bus.
I'll defer to Mr.
Yeah, when would that fee come into play?
Thank you, Chairman. What happened with that is, and all the street obstruction fees that we're doing, is that we are removing the parking meter fee from everything. So, because there was a $11 a day parking meter fee that we've been charging for the last 40-some years or so. And because with the Division of Parking, what they're going to be doing is getting rid of a lot of the parking meters throughout the city, is that doing it per parking meter is going to be very difficult, which is why we end up with buses. Buses typically take up 2 parking spaces for each one. So with the increase in the fees that they're asking for, plus with just a regular obstruction fee that they normally would be charged, the $50 per bus ends up going and being equivalent to what it would be if we would have charged the parking meter fee plus the fee per 20 linear feet.
Okay, so I want to understand this. Now, I see buses parked on off Euclid when they go to the theater. I think they're going to the theater near Cleveland State. Sometimes it could be 30 buses lined up on the street. And I'm assuming that they are school children going into an event. So you would charge $50 per bus on in that situation?
Typically, those like the school buses normally don't go and get permits from us.
So what bus are you referring to?
This is for overnight parking.
Overnight parking?
Yes. So usually it's the hotels. So when the hotels end up going and having like a professional sports team come in which they're coming in on a bus, those buses have to get parked overnight someplace, and they end up staying overnight for usually 2 or 3 days. Those buses are the ones that always end up getting permits from us. I know since I've been here the last 3.5 years or so, we've never received a permit application from the school district going and asking for the buses that are just going to be there park temporarily to drop off kids and stuff like that. And that's not the essence of what we're trying to, for the fee structure that we're doing here.
Okay, so all of these fees here in this amendment, they have been on the books. They've already on the books, and they haven't been changed in how long?
Between 30 and 40 years, depending on the fee.
Okay. Yeah, it's a lot of things to digest in one sitting here. So, do I have any questions on ordinance number 1141 as amended?
Yes.
Councilman Harrison.
Thank you. So I'm clear, these are, as you said, if somebody needs to park something on the street for long periods of time, and it may be where meters are, so you'll do away with having them to keep putting, now, well, we don't, I mean, I guess some do use coins still, but scan it and keep adding money allows you to get a permit to use the whole street to park for a long period of time, correct?
Correct. It's what it is right now we have a street obstruction permit that allows someone to either utilize a parking lane, or block the street or whatever, and that fee right now is $20 a month, no matter where you are within the city.
Okay.
So we end up going in, discussing with a couple of the different divisions throughout the city in terms of trying to find, and also comparing what other cities are doing, typically Cincinnati and Columbus, and try to find out what's a fair and applicable, amicable fee to go and try to go and charge people so we can catch up with our fees, because none of these fees have been changed since they were initiated.
Gotcha. And through the chair, I'm just trying to make sure. So if an organization blocks East 88th Street where we have the festival, and they have a bus that's going to sit on the street or other, apparatuses that's going to sit line the street, they'll be charged. They'll have to pay $50 per apparatus that lines that street.
Chairman DeCouncil, let's say it's a festival, and they already have, let's say, 2 or 3 blocks blocked off for that festival, and that bus is going to be parked inside that festival for the duration of the festival, then they wouldn't get charged an extra amount just because the bus, it's because they get that set area as part of their permit.
We're good. There we go. All right. So you made that clear. I just didn't want to support this, and then if someone comes and they've done everything they need to do, get the block party permit right on their street, and then you're going to charge them to park $50 to park each unit on their street. They want the nature's tracks, or they want the haircut bus, or they want a food truck. $50 each to line that area that they've already been allowed to block off, and so that's not the case.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My last question and comment. I know we mentioned CDC specifically in here, but there's other nonprofits that do community events and do things for the neighborhood that they do not charge that are not CDCs. Councilman Starr's Award is a prime example. Friendly Inn, right? University Settlement. You have our schools, right? There's other entities who do and provide community events. Some churches, right, who provide, they're nonprofit. They don't charge you to come and get a hot dog and visit one of the vendors. They're trying to do good for the community in which they serve. Why just exclusively CDCs? I don't understand that. To the chair.
Mr. Chairman, so I can comment on that. So we worked for a long time with the law department on how to define the exemptions and aware that they're fair and equal to everybody. And we had to come up with a definition that was defined and broad enough to capture many groups in the same situation, but defined enough that it's not seen as arbitrary and capricious. And so the solution we came up with were CDCs, because you're formed under a certain administrative code with the state of Ohio. It's easy to see if you qualify as a CDC. And the CDCs are considered to be an arm of the city in many ways to do good things in our neighborhoods. There's lots of folks that do good things in the neighborhoods, but they're funded by the city. And we also added in city-sponsored events, which includes city council events that are, free and open to the public, don't have to pay fees. So while the world could have been any nonprofits or any, something bigger, the fear was that it was going to be hard to define sort of who the benefit was intended for, and to also not have too wide of a net.
To the chair, so what about our schools? They receive funding from the city for many things, right? We know that the things that they do a lot of back-to-school events. They do other events that blocks streets and multiple blocks. We shouldn't be charging the schools.
And I'm going to defer to Mr. Knopf on that one.
Right now, what we end up having is that any event that's part of a city-sponsored event has no charge. Chairman DeCouncil, sorry for that. So any event that's considered city-sponsored has no fee. So if there ends up being an event that the school is doing that we can consider as a city-sponsored event, then we would end up going and having no charge at this point. Honestly, I've not received a permit request from any school since I've been here. Just saying.
I'm with you. I get you.
I don't think that they would really end up being part of, we're not going to add any more permit fees to people who have not already been paying permit fees.
Gotcha. And I'll wrap up, Mr. Chair. Maybe we should consider some exemptions for our schools, whether a reduced rate for nonprofits. I don't know whether they fall up under the block party, just the $25 fee, I guess. Just if a general nonprofit wants to hold a block party, they would just pay the $25, correct, to the chair?
Yes.
Okay.
Chairman DeCouncil, yes.
Folks would argue was a nominal fee. I get it, but if we're going to allow CDCs who are doing work in the neighborhood, there's other nonprofits that also does great work in the neighborhoods that we should exempt them from having any fee at all as well. Just my opinion. I think you can, just like we created the definition here, organized under Chapter 702, we can add something about other nonprofits as organized under 501c3. I don't know what you call it, but you get my drift here. Just, whether some schools pull permits now or not, none of us may be here at some point, right? So the next person may say, no, absolutely not. You need to pull a permit. You need to sign, you need to pay. And restricts that school from not having their event or that nonprofit. I don't know. I think we need some balance here. That's just my opinion, Mr. Chairman. So whatever you decide to do.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Councilman. Is there an amendment you want to offer? Not that we need any more amendments.
No, definitely. I do agree with some of the statements that Councilman Harrison mentioned. If possible, Councilman, could you put an amendment as far as the section so we can include nonprofit organizations and possibly something with the approval or the support from a council person or something within that amendment, so therefore we can know exactly what this entity is, because sometimes they may be a nonprofit 501(c) organization and then the department may not know who they are, but the council person may know the organization, may possibly be sponsoring that event as well, and then possibly have some type of lines under there. So I definitely will ask if Councilman Harrison could possibly put within the section an amendment so we can have that nonprofit agency get the same type of support as a CDC, because oftentimes we don't just work with the CDCs, we also work with those nonprofit agencies as well.
May I make one comment? I just wanted to make a comment that there are times when certain groups are having toy drives or whatever that aren't necessarily supported by the councilman or the neighborhood, and they might qualify as a nonprofit. So I think you're suggesting that there's some kind of approval from the councilman in order to get a waiver. I just want to hone in on a lot of these folks submit their permits at the last minute, looking to do things quickly. So I think you're going to have to put some kind of turnaround time for council members to approve it, and otherwise they get charged the fee. Because it is kind of a slippery slope with nonprofits.
Because of the time frame too.
Created equal, and there's lots of different, groups that are doing lots of things around the city.
I agree. Councilman Harrison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair Starr. Maybe this will go to finance as well, correct?
Yeah.
And maybe between now and, no, will that be heard today?
Might be today, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we can, at this point, we can go. At this point, we could go next week if you
in
need
4
more time,
hours.
but yeah.
Or as the director indicated, next week is fine. So maybe we give a little more thought to that, because it seems like, and that's up to you, Mr. Chair, it's your prerogative. I'm just a squirrel trying to get in out here. It's your- all right, and if you feel it's appropriate, that's fine. If not, we'll try to figure out between now and 2 o'clock. But just the thought of maybe finding a way to, cement that with the changes we're doing, no matter who's here, that ability for those nonprofits like Friendly Inn and others, or our schools within our district, or not in our district, just schools who do free work, provide things to neighborhoods all the time, won't be subject to those fees, whether they are nominal or not. So whatever you decide, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I tell you what, this amendment right here, before we go to finance, I want to ask you, I got to ask you to do a little bit more work on this. That we have all of these fees here, that we have a chart where the fee in this amendment, we want the fee that's on the books right now. So if I look at this, when the Finance Committee looks at this and they say active permit, single movement on page, it doesn't have a page number, processing fee, $29. And then they have one overweight surcharge, $15. If we can see some kind of chart that says you want to change this to $29 and currently it's $15. So we'll have a snapshot of what we are changing this fee to, where it's coming from. Okay. So this one is it's explanatory, but we want some little bit more explanation. Is that okay?
And Chairman, we already have this.
Chairman, no problem. We do have it, and we'll make sure that council gets it before it comes to finance.
Okay.
So we could probably send that out probably today, I think. And,
All right.
And Councilman, I mean, if I could have an opportunity to say one thing, we did make a change in here that council was asking for, just so that it's highlighted. There's often been the request of council, if a resident goes through the 50-50 sidewalk program, if the councilman or a church or a neighbor could pay the residents 50%. And the way the ordinance had codifieds were before, you couldn't do that. So this allows for a third party to pay the residents 50% if someone chooses to come up to the table with that
We
money.
already talked about this.
So yeah.
Come on, man. Already talked about this.
So yeah.
There you go.
So
Okay. All right. Is there any other questions on ordinance number 1141, 2023 as amended? All right. We'll move this on to finance.
So will that be today?
I guess we're going to figure it out.
Okay.
What's that?
I guess we're going to try to talk and figure it out.
In between? Okay.
All right.
It's today. Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
So I'll talk to the chair, and maybe we'll have a conversation.
And CMSD is no problem. It's just nonprofits kind of slippery slope.
Right, I'm with you. I just something like Friendly.
You know, we need an amendment.
Yeah.
With this too. We put that-
But if you want to do all settlement, there's only a few of them, right? There's one or two, but it has to be equal for that group of entities. Okay.
Okay. All right. All right.
Thank you.
All right, we done on that piece? Any other questions? All right, Director.
Yep.
You got anything else?
Oh, yeah, I got more. I'm here for the pieces with Jessica as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Rick. Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got 99 and we got 45. Yeah.
45
That's
is
the TIF
bedrock and
district.
99's.
Yeah. All right, last but not least, ordinance number 99, 2025 by council members McCormick, Bishop, and Griffin. This is a departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing $3,096,087.79 that previously had been allocated for improvements to the West Side Market to be performed by the city to be reallocated for the improvements to the West Side Market contemplated under ordinance number 532-2023 passed May 15, 2023. Okay? And this is ordinance number 99 as amended. And I'll read the amendment. There is no legal objection to the legislation if amended as follows. Number 1, in section 1 at the end, add RQS 0103 RL 2025-12. Okay? All right. Who's here to speak to this piece?
Hi, Jessica Trevisano, Senior Advisor for Major Projects in the Mayor's Office. And yeah, want to introduce yourselves too?
Assistant Director Reganji. Mark Dulick, Manager of Architecture and Site Development.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for meeting with us today. We have a piece of legislation before you that does not allocate any new dollars to West Side Market. It's merely an administrative piece determining how dollars already allocated to West Side Market can be spent. So this is just a summary. As you all know, West Side Market is owned by the City of Cleveland. The Cleveland Public Market Corporation leases the market and manages day-to-day operations. They are also overseeing the capital repairs and improvements to the market consistent with the West Side Market master plan that was developed by the city. As I also know you are all aware, the city very generously committed $20 million for improvements at the West Side Market, for improvements and repairs last year. This piece of legislation really addresses just over $3 million that is available in funds that were previously committed to the West Side Market from bond issuances that were made between 2020 and 2022. This legislation allows the nonprofit to use those funds that are already allocated to West Side Market to capture that in that broader $20 million capital improvement project. Again, no new funding is being requested here. The benefit of putting these two funding sources together is one, project efficiencies, when you're able to combine this $3 million already allocated with the $20 million from the city's ARPA funding, plus all of the great work that the nonprofit's been doing to raise dollars from the private sector, from philanthropy, to get tax credits. It means that we're able to put all of those dollars together and make them go further, to think about timeline, to think about all of those construction efficiencies. Having the nonprofit manage the projects also preserves our very valuable MOCAP staff time, because with West Side Market staff focusing on the project, that frees up our staff to work on other things. And then finally, and very importantly, by moving this $3 million and allowing the nonprofit to access it as part of this broader package, they're able to then use tax credits to match the investment. So the $3 million that the city has already committed to the West Side Market, they're able to then leverage that to access another $1.1 million from tax credits. So it's basically taking our $3 million and turning it into 4.1, which is great for all of us for a city-owned investment. The funds are used to pay for the first phase of capital improvements. This is something I know we've talked about before, but bears repeating. What's included in that phase one are improvements to the basement, to the East Arcade where the produce vendors operate, a connector between the North Arcade and the Market Hall, which will also include a new elevator, and then initial building envelope repairs, including repairs to the roof and the smokestack, and then design and construction costs for all of that capital work.
So before we go on, let me ask this question. In the previous years, we've been meeting on the West Side Market for quite a few years. In the previous years, when you came to the council, you said the need was so great. It was a lot of repairs that needed to be done at the West Side Market. And when we passed the bond dollars over the years, and I'm not exactly sure how many years, but it's probably been over 4 years, why haven't this money been spent if the need was so pressing at that point in time? And here in 2025, this money is not spent. Why wasn't that money spent initially when we actually allocated back in? I don't want to say back in the day, but in the year when it was allocated.
Yeah, to the chair, it's a great question. Two responses looking at these specific funds. One is much of the funds have been allocated to these projects. For the elevator project specifically, it is a big project that has experienced some project delays, and because we don't pay our vendors until they've actually performed the work, there is still funding left in those budgets, which is why you see some excess in those categories. And then for the West Side Market roof, which is an urgent need, one of the benefits, and I think we talked about this a bit with the first $10 million, one of the things that we noted for the city's ARPA allocation is, one of the issues that we've had with West Side Market is doing these bandages that just, help for a minute, but maybe don't solve the long-term problem. With the roof dollars, we still have dollars remaining in this project because we wanted to make it part of a more comprehensive scope with other building envelope repairs. So not just thinking about the roof, but trying to tie it in with the rest of the repairs so that we weren't just putting bandages on the roof and then needing to fix it again in 5 years, which is why there's still dollars left in the roof budget. And that's included in this first phase.
So this $3 million will essentially not be putting Band-Aids on it. It will be fixing everything.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
That's it. That's all I've got. Oh, sure. I mean, the director just noted the market just announced a $1.5 million grant from KeyBank that was just announced this weekend or maybe last weekend. They've also secured over $3.6 million from the Gun Foundation, and then they're working on closing tax credits in March, end of March, early April, and that will result in over $10 million more dollars being invested into the market that is free to the city, dollars that we were not able to access when it was not operated by a nonprofit that will be invested in our building.
Okay, also, Ms. Trevisano, that we haven't received an update on the West Side Market in quite some time. Can we get an update about the activities and what's going on at the West Side Market?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. All right. Are you finished your presentation?
I am.
Okay. Is there any questions? Councilman Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to Ms. Trevisano, to the chair, you mentioned that, some of these funds remain because, we don't pay contractors until the work is done. We funded a new roof in 2022. Has the roof been completed?
To the councilman through the chair, some roof repairs have been completed, the most urgent ones, but the more comprehensive roof package is part of this phase one that will kick off in June.
So
that was specifically at the request of the nonprofit. So we've been working together to coordinate the project. It's not that we couldn't have started a roof project in the meantime, but the nonprofit specifically wanted to roll that into phase one of the work. So
Right.
it's a coordinated, purposeful delay.
To delay a roof repair through the chair?
Yes, so that it can be rolled into this bigger project. And again, it was partially to capitalize on the tax credits that you could get, because once you spend it, it no longer qualifies for that tax credit. So you can't start until after the application is either awarded or submitted for.
So the roof is a part of the new tax credit application?
That's correct. To the councilman through the chair, it's part of this first phase one, and so the roof, the more comprehensive roof repairs are all part of this phase one, and they're tied in with building mechanicals. They're tied in with the building envelope. You know, when the city allocated these dollars, it was before we had we knew what was happening with the nonprofit, and so now that we have the nonprofit here, they're raising money. We have additional ARPA dollars allocated. We thought it prudent to hold on the roof project until we could make it part of this more comprehensive project. So again, we weren't doing a Band-Aid where we had roof repair, but then had to tear off parts that we just fixed to account for HVAC, right? Those aren't, we want to make sure that we're
Right.
thinking about it comprehensively.
Thank you. And through the chair, so we spent $1 million on part repair up front, based on what was allocated 3.3, now it's 2.3, basically. So we spent $1 million to gain what on the back end? As it relates to the roof itself.
To the councilman through the chair, I might defer to my colleagues in MOCAP. I believe that that $1 million was a couple different emergency projects at West Side Market that those funds were utilized for.
Not just the roof as it was budgeted for.
That's right.
So so the question is, there's $1 million of roof funds that has been expended roughly, and he's wondering how they were spent.
And did that, because we're spending $1 million, it's different from your house, right? Where you have a few shingles ordered flashing around your chimney. You spend a couple $100, you get that fixed, right? You know, and you figure a year or so, that'll buy you some time, right? We're talking about $1 million+ to buy us how much time, and what was the value of that time that we bought us, right? You know, spending that over $1 million, right? I mean, will we have made off through the chair? And I'll stop and let you answer. By just go ahead and just fixing the roof, right, and finding other things to add to the request that's now being asked for the new tax credit, right? Instead of spending $1.1 million now, was it really worth it in terms of the time that we bought to save in order for us to apply for the new tax credits? You follow me?
Yes, and I'm going to, Councilman, through Chairman, Councilman, I am going to defer to Mark for the details, but it's not so much that we did repairs of the roof to get us through, but the roof has many different pieces, parts to it, and so Mark can explain what portion of the roof this is intended for, but I think there were other emergency repairs that we spent that $1 million on, and you could reference exactly if it was roof or other related materials.
And just add to your response, just so I can help you out, to the chair, whether if we authorize the bond fundings for that specific purpose and you then turn around and use it for that and then some, should that have come back to this body for approval, or you had blanket authority just to do that? And when we made it clear this is what the money should have been used for, through the chair. Just a question.
So why don't you start with what the money was spent on?
Thank you. Through the councilman, to the councilman through the chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
We were working in collaboration with the Cleveland Public Market Corporation to make sure that while they were doing their work of taking over the management of the market, but also ensuring that essential components of the market remained in operation. So the original intent of this money was roof and envelope improvements. As you all know, you funded and we completed the complete restoration of the clock tower. And this was really intended to be the next component of that phase. We did a lot of other repointing and improvements to the masonry of the overall market as a whole. The next chunk that we had identified was completion of that envelope, as well as the replacement of the upper portion of the roof, the main hall. And so that is all the work required to ensure the water tightness of the upper portion, that roof where the tile roof is and the copper monitor is. Also, the money that, the uses of the money, of the portions of the money to date were some other envelope improvements, including some emergency roof repairs, some emergency repairs to the cornice. There were some specific roof areas that have been a problem, But as Ms. Trifasano mentioned, it was really important that those be done in coordination with the full HVAC improvements to the market to really approach it as an integrated project. But some of those were the upgrades to the glycol system, which, as you know, is an essential component to that. That was an emergency. So some of the funding was used for that. The system that keeps the coolers at the market in operation. So that was partly what was used for. There was some structural work, both down in the boiler room and in the market hall itself, some floor repairs, and as well as you know, we had funded the elevators as well.
Okay, thank you. I just, that helps me, right? When I know you didn't take 1.1 of the 3.3 and to buy you a little more time to apply for some dollars to get more money, right? Like, did we really, add any value, in terms of the amount of funding we were getting? So thank you for that. So you did additional elevator repairs in addition to the $400,000 that we set aside the same year with that money as well. Through the chair, why don't we just use the $400,000 that we set aside for that instead of using some of the roof money for elevators?
Through the chair to the councilman. Yes, it was decided that because those are such an essential component of the operation, we are spending that was for the first elevator alone was almost $400,000. This was to use to repair the other three.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That helps, just to understand how and what was done. And I guess we can get to my last comment later at some point. If we authorize the bond funds for that specific purpose, but the administration decided to use it for other things without this body's approval, I don't know whether the ordinance that authorized the bond issue would allow for that, but we should have a conversation about that later. Although good things, but to note, the conversation with this chair about, hey, we said this, but we're going to actually pivot to do some other things that we think are meaningful, to the operation of the market. That's fine, but having the chair know in the way this body knows. So when we look at this, when I wouldn't have asked you the question, that's something that was like known, right? That some of that was used for other things. But at first glance, I'm like, we took $1.1 million of the $3 million. Why didn't we just do the whole roof, right? But understood. Thank you for your response. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Councilman Harrison. I'm going to go to Councilman Starr.
Thank you, Chair. I would just ask through the chair to the table, as we talk about different tax credits, for clarification, is this something that is guaranteed to happen, or are we applying, hoping for the $10 million to happen just from that context?
Yeah, to the councilman through the chair, there are a couple different tax credit sources that the market is accessing. New market tax credits, historic tax credits that are available from the federal government, and then they're also looking at historic tax credits available from the state. The new market tax credits are competitive, but the market has been working with sources and they have an allocation of new market tax credits, so we know that's coming. The historic tax credits available from the federal government are available by right for projects like this, and so that's not a competitive program where we wonder if they're coming or not. Those two sources are what represents the $10 million that I mentioned. Okay. The last source, the state historic tax credit, is a competitive program. The market is applying for the next round that opens in June. If they were to be successful, that could be another $5 million for the market, but that's not what I mentioned earlier. So those two other sources are in process, and we're closing on those applications, or closing on those funds this year.
Okay, and through that standpoint, obviously we know politics is politics, and changes of administration from a federal level standpoint has occurred. From any other different grants and any different other funding that you've went through to help support the market, are any of those dollars on hold currently at this moment? And if so, do we have any plans to try to go in a different direction to be able to complete some of the upgrades that we have? Like, I remember, I think 2023, 2022, when we were talking about the West Side Market, we talk about a lot of different investment that is needed. Obviously, this is a city-owned facility, and obviously, if you own something, you have to invest in your property, your business, everything that you have. And then obviously transitioning into a nonprofit who is still managing it, but it still is owned under the city, if I'm correct. My thoughts is with all of the dollars and all of the federal governmental dollars that you went after, is anything holding you up now currently with this new turn of administration through the chair?
Yeah, to the councilman through the chair, and I'm going to knock on wood. The answer is no. As of right now, there's no indication that there's going to be interference with these federal programs and the projects that we're talking about for West Side Market. Luckily, these are tools that are used by real estate developers all over the country, and I feel fairly good that those types of sources are going to remain relatively stable. But as of right now, no worries about the funds being taken. I do want to emphasize, just while I have a moment with all of you, how important the $20 million ARPA allocation was to jumpstarting this process. I mean, just to really underscore it, the city's invested $20 million from ARPA into West Side Market. That has been turned into $50 million of investment for a city-owned building between philanthropic sources, corporate sources, and tax credits. That's incredible, and I think something that we should all be really proud of.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Starr. Councilman Kelly.
Through the chair to Mr. Vasano and the crew. Thank you. You know, we do need to get a little update on this, and I like to, me and Brother Polonsek were down there with you one time. I'd like to get back down there and see. So it looks like this time you're going to do the whole roof. Is that what you're going to do? I mean, because you have the HVAC up there, and it looks like you're going to do the roof, you're going to get the elevators, you're going to make a connection, you're going to go in the basement, which needs a lot of work there. And then what about the heating? Is a boiler down there? Is that what are you doing with that?
Yeah, to the councilman through the chair, I'm more than happy to bring Rosemary and their entire crew here to talk through all of the capital improvements. It'll be a year in April since the nonprofit was handed over since we handed West Side Market over to a nonprofit for management. So that might be a good time to come back and give you guys all an update. The first phase includes the flat portions of the roof. The roof is multiple pieces, and Mark knows much better than I do. But there's a flat roof, but then there's also the more traditional clay tile on top. The piece of the project that is included in the first phase is primarily those flat roof portions. The terracotta tile is in relatively decent shape, and it's very, very, very expensive to replace, and so the more that we can keep it stable, the better. The first phase also includes some of the mechanical, and what the nonprofit, their architects and their owner's representative are doing is building out all of the comprehensive repairs that need to happen for the market. Based on funding, they're starting with sort of phase one, what makes sense for timing, construction, efficiencies, schedule, minimizing the impacts on vendors, and then they have additional plans for their phase two that they're fundraising for. So I know the mechanicals are included in the whole project. I can't remember exactly what fits where. The heat is boiler heat, and so far it's been serving the market pretty well. The bigger headline is adding air conditioning for the first time at West Side Market. That is part of the project, and that's really important because it'll allow the refrigeration system to operate more effectively, in addition to being a really nice quality of life improvement for visitors and businesses operating there.
Okay, and through the chair to Mr. Vasano, so all of those components are on the roof, though, right? Is that where they're going to be? They're conditioned?
Yeah, to the councilman through the chair, some of them are going to be on the roof. There's also a utility yard that's being added just outside. So some of the condensers are going to be in that utility yard that just went through Design Review and Planning Commission.
Okay, then through the chair to Mr. Vasano, then MOCAP is kind of this is your baby, more to speak. Somebody, I mean, just while you're up there on the roof spending this money, instead of doing the Band-Aids, it sounds like you're going to comprehensively do everything that needs to be done this time. Somebody's making sure of that, you know? I mean,
that's right. To the councilman through the chair, this is a project that I help shepherd, but without the teamwork of my colleagues in MOCAP, that's what gives me the confidence that we're doing it right.
Okay. And through the chair of the councilman, so the nonprofit has an owner's rep that is, in a sense, the watchdog to make sure that things are done properly, and that's Jeff Applebaum's group that is managing the parts of this, construction project.
Okay.
And then MOCAP will have oversight in the sense that we own the building, the city owns the building. Our concern, if you will, is that, the roof, the envelope, the mechanicals, the things that are going to keep the building moving are invested in with the ARPA dollars and with these bond funds, the elevators, and that the tax credits and the donations kind of do the additive features that you need to make it a dynamic market. So just not that we're not all in this together, but we want to make sure as the owner of the building that the actual core elements of the building are improved so that it's preserved into the future. And then we have the additive elements that'll come in as future phases get funded.
No, I thank you. That through the chair, then I just make sure that we because it is our building. It's a lot of money, the 20 million. It's really encouraging to see that you may be going to get 50 million with it. I know I talked to quite a few people, like Brian Zimmerman, and we figured it'd take about 60 million, to get that as long as. So you're approaching it, but it is our building. I just want to make sure that we have somebody. No disrespect, Ms. Cruz, I'm from MOCAP, that knows what they're looking at up there, making sure that, because we've done a lot of Band-Aids, and this time we're going to spend that money, we need to do it right. So, but thank you, it's great for the city, I appreciate it.
And just to say too, through the chairman and the councilman, we do have, is it every other week that we have a West Side Market meeting, which isn't, the nonprofit hasn't started their construction work yet, but we've had a consistent meeting where we coordinate with the West Side Market staff.
It's every week.
Every week, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Kelly, you done? Yes, sir. Okay. All right. Yeah, we really want to see this West Side Market project come to fruition. We've committed a lot of money. We've had a lot of hearings and committed a lot of time. A lot of folks are waiting to see, are we really going to put this thing together? So we'll be waiting for that update from the market, the West Side Market. Mm-hmm. All right. Is there any questions on ordinance number 99, 2025? Seeing no further questions, ordinance 99, 2025 is approved.
Yeah.
All right, and
Thank you. Nice to see you.
we did that one. Which one is that?
What's it?
We got
No, we got one more.
45.
We got one more.
45.
Oh, it is?
I think one of the Public Works ones they held it or something, right? So we just have 45 left.
Yeah, we got 40.
Yeah.
That's the
I don't
only
know
thing
what
left
happened
is
to 21.
45.
Yeah.
I'm killing you, Dan.
All right, ordinance number 45, 2025, by council members Bishop, Harrison, and Griffin. This is a departmental request. An emergency ordinance to supplement ordinance number 746, 2024, passed August 7th, 2024, relating to the Bedrock .41 TIF district by adding 3 new whereas clauses in sections 9A, 9B, 9C, 9D, 9E, and 9F to repeal section 9 and to amend section 10 relating to authorizing Director of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment finance agreement and the Director of Capital Projects to enter into one or more construction management agreements with Cleveland LD LLC for various public improvements and authorizing other agreements and documents. All right, ordinance number 45, 2025, this one is as amended. Let me read the amendment. There's no legal objections to the legislation if amended as follows. Number 1, section 3, at new section 9A, paragraph 3, line 7, strike 100% and insert 90%. Okay? All right. Mr. Director, Mr. Trevisano?
Yeah, Jessica Trevisano, Senior Advisor for Major Projects. I need to shake my head and switch my hats out. So here today to talk about a piece of legislation that is maybe going to be complicated to talk about, but does, I think, 3 relatively straightforward things. This ordinance aims to establish the following. One, it talks about the delivery method for various public improvements. As you might recall, when we've talked about the Cuyahoga Riverfront project that Bedrock is developing, there's multiple public improvement components with that project, things like rebuilding West 3rd and Eagle Avenue, that are all complementary to the project. This clarifies that Bedrock has the authority to do those improvements under a construction manager at risk contract with the city. The second thing it does is it clarifies that the 5 TIF extensions that were passed by council in December of 2023 are part of the shore to quarter shore TIF district. And then finally, it makes clear that the city commitment to reimbursing for those public improvements, if in 2056 the city still has unfulfilled obligations, the city can commit up to 90% of the value of the TIF district starting in 2056 until the owed obligations are complete. I said that was more straightforward, but I know it's a lot to get through. So just as a recap, this is a summary of the prior legislation and what is being amended with today's legislation. So starting in June of 2023, there was Ordinance 526, and then also in November of 2023, Ordinance 1343. Those are 2 pieces of legislation that speak to how the public improvements at the Cuyahoga Riverfront will be delivered. Also in November of 2023, City Council passed the extensions of 5 existing TIFs, the Weston TIF, the Hilton TIF, the Steelyard TIF, the VA TIF, and the Lower Euclid TIF. Those were extended for another 30 years. In March of 2024, Council authorized the establishment of the Shore to Quarter Shore TIF District, which is a 30-year TIF district. Again, Council authorized the creation of that tool, not how the funds will be spent. And then in August of 2024, Council authorized the Director of Economic Development to enter into a TIF agreement with Bedrock, establishing both a project TIF and pledging no more than 40% of the TIF district as the city's share for public improvements, capped at $400 million. Again, another sort of summary just to make sure we're all on the same page. That piece of legislation that was passed in August of 2024 did 2 main things. It established a project TIF for Bedrock. So that was a 45-year non-school project TIF that starts in 2027. The piece of legislation also spoke to Bedrock's community benefit agreement commitment. Bedrock, as you'll remember, has committed a total of $25 million in contributions to the city, made at various project milestones, including commitments to a neighborhood investment fund. And then Bedrock has also committed to multiple other commitments in their CBA, including a 20% affordable housing commitment and 40% MBFB CSB commitment. That piece of legislation also spoke to the Shore to Quarter Shore TIF district, where we determined that we would pledge up to 40% of the value of the TIF district to riverfront public improvements only until the city's share of those public improvements are paid off. That was capped at $400 million in project costs, subject to a small inflation, 2% inflation. So what this piece of legislation does, in sections 1 and 2, it allows Bedrock to deliver certain public improvements on public property through a construction manager at risk agreements. I've highlighted as we go the prior pieces of legislation that we're amending. And sections 4 and 5 clarifies that the TIF extensions are part of the Shore to Quarter Shore TIF district during their extension periods. And section 3, as amended, and I need to say thank you to my council colleagues who pointed out that initially we had said up to 100% of the value of the TIF district could be pledged towards paying off this obligation. Our council colleagues pointed out that there might be some concern around our shared commitment to the neighborhood investment and making sure that at least 10% of the value of the TIF district goes to neighborhood investment. That's why we amended from 100% to 90%. This permits the city to allocate up to 90% of the TIF district value to reimburse the developer for any public improvement costs outstanding owed by the city starting in 2056. We don't think that this is going to be a issue because as long as the TIF district is growing the way that we think it's going to grow and we're not taking out a lot of properties for individual property or parcel TIFs, for building TIFs. We don't anticipate needing this provision, but wanted to make sure that we could give reassurance to our partners with Cleveland, LD, and Bedrock that the city would make sure that we pay off those commitments, by the time we finish with the TIF district. So that's what I've got, and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, so, Ms. Trevisano, talk about the Neighborhood Equity Fund. The Neighborhood Investment Fund, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're saying that, is that original agreement that we agreed upon before, will this change that agreement in any kind of way?
It will not, no.
Okay. So at the end of this, because you explained, at the end of this period, if we haven't received all the dollars, if the TIF district has not generated the revenue that we thought it would, what would happen?
If the TIF district doesn't generate the revenue that we thought it would, we are only obligated to commit for the first 30 years of the TIF, or up until 2056, 40% of the value of the TIF district. If that's not enough to cover the $400 million that the city has committed to its share of public investments in the riverfront, and again, those are public investments, those are parks, those are roads, those are streetscapes, that's public infrastructure. If in
City-owned property.
Thank you, city-owned property. If in 2056, the TIF district, that 40% hasn't been enough to pay off the $400 million, then we could bump that share up to 90% of the value of the TIF district, only until we pay it off. And if at that point, if by the time the TIF district ends and there's still balance outstanding, then that occurs at Bedrock's own risk, and they've put in the equity to complete the projects.
Okay. All right. Do we have any questions on this TIF district? Councilman Harris? This is going to DPS. So you got to actually get a chance to weigh in on this. It's going on tomorrow? Okay.
Great.
Tomorrow?
All right.
No, it's not on your agenda, but it could be. No.
Yeah, but if it can go tomorrow, that'd be ideal to the councilman through the chair. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other questions on this TIF district? Councilman Starr.
What is the 2% of 400 million that really actually is from this project, as far as how the compound interest actually works?
Sure, to the councilman through the chair, it does not compound. So the city has said that we will commit $400 million to the public improvements of the project. Year over year, let's say that in year one, we have committed $50 million, and there's 350 remaining. That 350 remaining, we would just increase it by 2% to account for inflation, knowing that construction costs continue. We didn't want to market towards inflation, though, because 2% is a lower risk for us. We know it will never be more than 2%.
And then how much is it actually each year then, as far as it from relates to being capped or anything like that?
It would never be any more, sorry, I have to do some quick calculator math. It would never be any more than 2% of 400. So 408 million is the most it would be. It only increases based on if the city hasn't, whatever the city's kind of remainder of the share is. I'd have to go back and look at, I think we presented on it previously. I don't have all my charts in front of me.
So is it currently capped?
It is capped. Yeah, no more than $400 million, and then a gradual 2% increase for inflation if the city, if the city is not paying for that 400 million. I can get back to you with the exact numbers.
Yes, because I'm looking and trying to think of some calculations from the numbers, and just saying that it's claimed that it's capped at that percentage, and trying to figure out what the actual 2% look like per year. It's important for us to understand if this is working or not, to the chair.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Starr. Seeing no further questions, ordinance number 45, 2025 is approved. We'll move on to DPS. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's it.
It's my Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You gotta ask her.
Danny boy. You gotta close the meeting.
Seeing no further, I hereby adjourn municipal services and properties to the next call of the chair.